Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Success After Trauma. We're bringing in guests. They're sharing a little bit about their story, what they've been through, what that journey was like for them, and then how they're serving today. Because all of us, when we go on that journey, that self-discovery, that healing journey, eventually, I think I'm projecting here, but we all kind of come to that place where we're like, oh, there's more back there. I got to go back. And I love listening to all the different and sharing all the different journeys that people have been on and then how they are helping today. So our guest today is Sharron. Sharron has spent the past 10 years developing her method for creating full body wellness. Sharron helps women to transform their relationship with themselves so they can enjoy more clarity, have a greater sense of self-worth, and self-belief, significantly improve their wellness and deeper connection with themselves and those around them. Sharron, this is, yes, please, let's talk about it. As we learn who we are, we learn our power, and then we blossom in the world. Would you tell us a little bit about, well, just so the guests can know you, can you kind of take us back to the beginning and tell us a little bit about how you even arose here?
Yeah, sure. And look, thank you so much for having me as well, Greg. Yeah, look, for me, unfortunately, my story starts at a very young age. And if it's okay with everyone, let's go deep quickly and
Let's dive
cut
in.
out cut out all the other stuff. But unfortunately, my story started at a very young age. So I unfortunately experienced some childhood sexual abuse. And through my teenage years, through school, I became suicidal. I had struggled with, people bullying and making fun of me, even my close friends at the time. And that was challenging. And I guess I went through those thoughts of thinking, does anyone care if I will be here apart from my parents? And why am I even here? And what's the point? And the thing that kind of got me through those moments and initially, when I reflect back on what some of the things that made a difference to me in those moments was, well, what if? Asking the question to myself of what if? What if I stuck around? What would my life look like? If I did go through, what would I want my life to look like?
Mm.
And in those darkest moments, those were the things that had me kind of create my future, look into the future of the possibilities, and really kind of take me out of those moments, those present moments of what I was feeling and experiencing, to really project into the future and create what it was that I wanted. So some people will unfortunately experience trauma and some really hard experiences in their life at a very young age. Sometimes that might only happen at a later age. And if you're like me, you may have things that happen throughout your entire life. So that kind of was in my early years. I struggled as an adult. I've had some other traumatic experiences. I've had 2 miscarriages. I have had an unfair dismissal with a previous employer. I've gone through all different challenging situations. At the beginning of the pandemic, my husband and I were both made redundant at the same time. Mine was the unfair dismissal. So we went from a 2-income household to a 0-income household overnight. We'd moved house, we were paying more rent, and there was a whole lot of other things going on. So I guess what I've learned over the years is how powerful our minds are in that whole journey, in terms of picking us up when we're down, into actually, maintaining our own mental health and happiness at all times, and so many other areas and aspects of our life, and how it really all starts with the mind. And yeah, I talk a lot about also the mind-body connection and how they integrate together. So for me, if we can get your mind and your thoughts on the right track and the right path, then anything is possible.
Absolutely, and I love that you talked about so most people have at least heard of, and then some people have had the privilege of experiencing, and once you see it, can't unsee it. the power of the mind. I love how you talked about the mind body connection as well. It goes
Yeah.
because if we get too heady, we lose the heart space. Um, yeah, what have you, yeah, what if your discovery's been on that? The connection of
Yeah.
my body, yeah.
Yeah, so much. So if I relate it specifically also from a trauma and a trauma response as well. So for people who have gone through trauma, different people have different experiences, but your body will have a response in that moment in terms of how you're going to deal with what you're experiencing in that moment. So the next time you come across something, you might first feel something within your body. Your heart might start racing. You might start sweating. You might start having physical symptoms and reactions. And that's because you've learned and you've wired your brain at that first instance of when that happened. And when your body feels that again, it will start responding before your mind actually realizes what's going on.
Mm.
So when we talk about the mind-body connection, that's what people are talking about. So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, which came first? Is it the mind or the body? And sometimes it can become blurred because there's also energetic fields and other things that are interacting. So if you and I were actually physically in the same room, you might be experiencing something, and energetically between our energetic fields, I might feel and sense something myself as to what you might be experiencing. It's also, when you're in the shopping line and you're getting some reaction from someone and you're like, I've just met you. I don't know anything about you, but there's something off about you. And that will be your energetic field that you're giving off. And I'm sensing that physically within my body before my mind's understanding. I don't know if I like this person. I don't know if I trust this person and everything like that. So the mind-body connection is so powerful. So what I've learned over time is whether it's our lifestyle, our busyness that we always have, we start to trust ourselves less over time. When we have those gut reactions, those gut feelings, and those gut instincts that people talk about, we don't trust those in those moments. Those are your body sensations telling you that something's going on. And when we ignore that, we doubt that later on. And that's where your intuition is connected to, and so many other factors. So it's about helping people to come back to themselves, how to reconnect to themselves so that they can start to trust themselves and what messages they're receiving in those moments too.
I love it. I love all of it. I'm all about. I'm huge on. I don't just work with men, but when I'm working with men, more than not, the experience has been, we got to get men. We're like we're again my experience. So I'm saying men. We're good at dissociating and getting out of the body. We don't have to feel anything. So it's huge on. I'm a big believer in the data that we can collect from being connected with our body. Um, I had a train of thought and it left the station. It went somewhere, so it'll come back to me.
Well,
But
do you want to know
please.
some tools that can help you when you are disassociating? Because again, that's a very common thing when people have experienced trauma. In order to not experience that trauma or that feeling or sensation again, people go and disassociate so they don't have to feel
it.
that,
Right.
right? Because it's painful. It brings up a lot of past hurt, feelings, emotions, etc. So when you're disassociating and you notice that you're not in your body anymore, there's a few simple things that you can do. First thing that you can do is take off your socks, shoes, get out, ground yourself into nature, put your feet on Mother Nature and just stand there, close your eyes. If you're living in a sunny part of the world, amazing, get that vitamin D onto your skin. and just stand there, take some deep breaths and just breathe. It's a beautiful way to ground yourself. It's a good way to be out in nature. It's a good way to focus on your breath, to calm and relax your nervous system. So many benefits. I am all about simple techniques that tick multiple boxes and are highly effective. And it doesn't cost you anything. Fresh air, nature, earth. So that's a beautiful way to do that very quickly. Another thing could be focusing on a point on the wall. It could be focusing on the flame of a candle. It could be just focusing on the tip of your nose. It could be getting a guided meditation, just finding a point that you can focus on and focus on slowing your breath and just taking in some deep belly breaths, focusing and being mindful in that moment. The problem with that is that's where people's thoughts will come through and they get scared by those thoughts. They, tear themselves down and bring themselves down because of the thoughts that they're having. And that's completely normal. The one thing that I always say to people is that's completely normal to have your mind racing and have thousands of thoughts. And that's exactly what you want in that moment. And it's not about judging whatever thoughts come through. It's just about noticing them. And when you notice them and you're present to those thoughts, you go, okay, come back to that point on the wall, come back to that flame, come back to the tip of your nose, come back to your breath. And when you wander again, you just come back. The third tool that I'll share with you is I'm a big believer in the power of essential oils. I use some beautiful oils, and I'm also a raindrop massage practitioner, and we use the oils in the treatment. And the first step is all around doing a Valor balance. So we use a particular oil called Valor, and it's perfect for grounding, but it's also perfect for courage and confidence. So before I go and do a speech or anything like that, or I'm walking into a situation where I'm not so confident, I'll put the essential oil on to help me feel more courageous and confident. But there's a simple tool that I can teach people where when you use that oil on your feet, again, grounding starts through the feet and works your way up through the body. We can help calm and relax the nervous system. Again, you're doing a mindful practice. You're coming back in and connecting to your body. And it can be a beautiful way for people who deal with stress and anxiety. There are things that you can do that just don't take a lot of time and can be so powerful.
That's awesome. I love it. I definitely I've myself very, 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 very good at dissociating along the journey. And I'd say for about, I think we're at, I don't know, I don't think it's been 2 years yet, like a year and a half or something. I started meditating for like had never meditated before in my life, and it has been just absurdly life changing. And I mean, it's big. I mean, people, my people close to me can see it, and obviously I get to feel it and enjoy it. But really, really, that process of connecting with myself, I always used to look at dissociation as my gift, and it is, especially now that I can harness it. But yeah, because dissociation is we have all of our logical faculty, so no emotional, so we're like, yeah, we're processing, we're good. But the way I tell people is, like, for me, being on that side of the spectrum for association dissociation, the downside is, like, when it was movie night, like, everyone had a spot. I knew what bowl everyone was using, popcorn, the movie, the blanket, the pillows, sit down, check the box, we did movie night. Oh, but I didn't connect with anyone. And that's, meditating in the last year of my life has definitely altered that so much.
Yeah. And with just what you're sharing there about how when you're disassociating and you've kind of gone off and the emotional part of it, I just want to talk a little bit about the limbic part of the brain. So the limbic system in the brain is all connected with our emotions and our memories and our thoughts. So when you've gone through trauma, that's the part that you want to disconnect from, right? Because it's going to bring up those feelings and those emotions. It's the same part of the brain that when you smell, say, apple pie, it might remind you of your grandmother making apple pie for you. So it can have some really beautiful associations for you, and it can have some really negative associations. What I love about engaging that part of the brain, and I'm going to bring essential oils back into it, is because it's actually connected to our olfactory system, which is through the nose. So when you breathe and you're breathing in smells and it reminds you of something, or it brings up those emotions and memories for you, if you've gone through trauma and there is some negative associations, having and using the power of sense can really help alter that again and bring you back into your body. So that's where I also love to use the essential oils to engage in that way, to again bring you back into the body, bring you back into the present moment, not completely eradicate those thoughts and memories, because that's not realistic. But it's about just bringing you back into the present moment, where you can then process all the information that's coming from you and then make more effective decision making again moving forward.
I love it. So how did you tell me a little bit about the journey of what was your journey of your discovery or awareness of mind body connection? I'm using the label meditation, but
Mhm.
as you learned the different tools, techniques, processes, or even the fact that it was a thing, what was that
Mm.
journey like for you?
Yeah, so I guess my journey first started with personal development programs. So it was I had gone through many ups and downs throughout my life, and I had crashed again, and I was at my rock bottom. And at that point, I started to, I got a little bit of help through a psychologist and went and saw them for a period of time. I went and did some personal development programs. So it was kind of, I think once you're on a path, when you're ready and the universe knows that you're ready, the next step will always show itself at
Mhm.
that point. So when I felt that the psychologist had done the part that I needed from them and I was ready for the next thing, I moved on to personal development programs, started focusing on my mindset or what I wanted to do from a wealth creation point of view as well, and so forth. And then I discovered another program and personal development program, and that just kept going on and on for some time. When I learned about meditation, if you're a type A high achieving person, and you're wanting to get into meditation, I wanted to, the method of meditation that I do is transcendental meditation, and it's 20 minutes twice a day if you're doing it as it's designed. And the thought of me sitting down for 20 minutes in silence at the first point was overwhelming. So before I did the program, I started to do practice and do 5 minutes at a time and start building up from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes. So that by the time I did the course, I felt like I could do the 20 minutes at a time. I started also with guided meditations, but what I noticed with the guided meditations was, because I was still present and listening to whatever the person was saying, I could only go so deep. And I guess I was craving for something deeper and was interested in how that would work. So they all serve purposes. I still do guided meditations at times. When I take a bath with essential oils, I might also go and put some sound meditation to allow the sound vibrations at certain hertz impact me. But I also use transcendental meditation every day. So for me and my journey is And what I say to people is, if you've tried one meditation technique and that didn't work for you, maybe try another one.
Mhm.
There's so many different options out there. So don't get stuck as if you've tried one and it didn't work, but there is no other option for you. Just keep searching until you find the method that works. So that's
When you
kind of,
oh, good. So
yeah.
sorry, good.
So that's kind of where that started for me in terms of the meditation and starting to work on myself and build more of these things. When I went through my redundancy, and my previous career was in health and safety. So I was a national health and safety manager. And when I left that, I kind of say I left the corporate world and became more woo-woo and started to go down this path of learning the raindrop massage, the chakra energy balancing, hot stones, and all of those things. But now, what I love to do is bridge the gap between the two, because there's a logical, analytical side of me, very masculine driven aspect to me that wants to get shit done, if I can say that. And then there's the other part of me that's very connected to my feminine side, that wants to be grounded, that wants to go with the flow, and wants to engage more and more over time with that spiritual mind-body connection. So we've all got that blend within us. It's about how much we want to engage with either side and how we do that and when we do that.
I love it. I love it's I unique you say that. I the way I tell I began to learn about the label that I use is quantum. It's just a label that I use. But I began to learn about quantum about 2 to 2.5 years ago maximum. I've been on my journey for about 12 years, but prior to that, we were doing all the brass tack stuff, getting up 5 a.m., eating chicken breast, running 3 miles because that's what was going to save us. But yeah, about 2.5 years ago, and so I went I dove in like it was like being deprived of it. And when I finally got to, I was like, oh my gosh, look at all of this. But what I tell people is I say, well, I'm probably the most pragmatic healer you'll meet. And I don't know if I am or not, but I love I love that you use the term woo woo. I use it as well. But I love reconnecting it back into information that people can put their hands on and realize oh, this is a thing. There's a process here. It's really taking place, even though we don't see or feel or hear all of it. One thing I tell people is imagine the challenge of the first person that tried to convince everyone that the brightest star at nighttime was moving the entire ocean twice a day, and we now know the moon actually does that. But how rough was it the first guy trying to convince people?
Yeah, absolutely. They seem crazy, right? Everyone will judge them. They'll point out how crazy they are. How can they think that? And if you're that crazy person, you start to take on those people's thoughts and opinions of you. And it's about, again, everything that we've been talking about. How do you come back to yourself? What do you know to be your truth? Block out the noise of everything else going around you and just trust in yourself. And it's up to them to kind of, see what's true for them. But if someone came to you and talked to you 5 years ago about the quantum, you wouldn't have been ready, and you would have been pointing the finger at that person saying, you're crazy. What the hell are you talking about? And you had to go through those parts of your journey to get to where you are before you were ready to hear that. So I guess there are probably people listening to us today who might not be at that point. They might be listening to me talking about some of the essential oils and going, what in the hell is she talking about? How could they be powerful? How could they do that for you? And that's okay. You might not be ready at that point. Or if you are, maybe you just try. And again, there are so many tools out there. And what I always encourage people to do is, look, this is what's worked for me. Give it a go, see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, that's fine. Leave it and move on to the next thing if that's the case. And then once you find what works for you, how can you implement it as part of your daily, weekly, monthly rituals so that you can support your self-care, support your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, spiritual health, so that you live a life that you love and thrive in.
I love it. And like you said, when and to say like, like, hey, there's probably some people. Oh, of course, right? Because with the 8 billion of us, that they're just all at different places, and the ascension journey just never really ends. So it just keeps climbing. One one time I had a gentleman. This is at this point, this will be maybe around 14 years ago, 13 or 13, 14. There was a gentleman that I was riding horses, and a gentleman was going to teach us how to ride these horses. I was actually in the military at the time. I was riding for the Mounted Color Guard, and this gentleman was going to teach us how to ride horses, and he gave us his book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and told us to
Mm-hmm.
read this book. And for anyone that's read the book, not heads nodding, I've definitely read it multiple times since. And so I opened the book and I tried to start reading it, and I was like, what is this crazy guy talking about? He's supposed to be teaching us how to ride a horse. I didn't read the book. I put it up somewhere. I didn't really follow what I was supposed to do because he was crazy. And then it was probably about 2 years later or more. I mean, I was out of the military and I read that book, and I literally like went back to that guy and I was like, why didn't you tell me about this book? But he knew. He said, you weren't ready then. It was 2 years later before the first time I could receive it.
Absolutely. Well, some of the personal development programs that I actually started with was by a man who called his events Think and Grow Rich. And he had studied with Bob Proctor directly as well. And I had volunteered with them for maybe about 10 years almost. And I received so many resources from him over those years: books, Think and Grow Rich, The Signs of Getting Rich, so many materials, some of which I learned at the time and adopted, but there was a lot of stuff that I didn't. And, this is how it all kind of comes full circle, right? And when you're ready, and several years ago, I started doing some work and studies with Bob Proctor directly and through his teachings and everything. And then I could remember everything that this guy taught 10 years ago. I'm like, that's exactly what he was doing. And that's exactly the stuff. And I'm now reading the stuff that I didn't read back then. And I had access to it then. And there's a part of you that kicks yourself going, oh my God, why didn't I do this back then? I had it and I just didn't pick it up. And then at the same time, as you said, you just weren't ready for it. And you hadn't gone through whatever challenges and growth that you needed to at that point for you to really take it on.
That's,
So
oh, go ahead, please.
no, that's what I was just basically going to say. So that's, it's just about not beating yourself up in that moment, just saying, everything happens for a reason. It's about divine timing, if you want to call it that. And, it happens when it happens.
I like to share the awareness or the realization. I've studied in neurolinguistic program. It's been a favored modality of mine. I mean, there's a few others that I utilize, but been a favored one. And so there's a belief in there that says everyone's doing that we're all doing the best that we can with what we have right now. And when I share that, I've adopted that belief. I've chosen to, and when I share it, for some people, they say, "Well, yeah, but then they have this one example of like this person knew better." And what I tell people is, oddly enough, if we were to agree that the ascension never ends, if we were to agree, and if you're on this journey, if those two things are truths, in the future, you'll look back more advanced than now and wonder why you weren't. But you're doing the best you can with what you have right now. We always are doing the best we can with what we have at any moment, and then the journey I think I'm going to suggest or project is about being curious and learning and expanding, exploring more, but allowing ourselves the forgiveness that everything we are our trauma responses until we heal. Well, that's a projection, but I'm going to make that suggestion. We're our trauma responses until we heal, and the journey is really in learning who we are.
Mm,
We can't show up as ourselves until we
mm.
even learn who we were before all those things that happened.
Yeah. And I think you said something in the very beginning of this chat. I'm in the discovery of, do we ever fully heal? Because as we go through our healing journey and we're at a different place, there's always something else that we might uncover about ourselves. And so then we go, oh crap, I thought I've healed that part.
Oh
And then
my
you
gosh.
realize, oh, there's another layer and there's another layer. And I guess there's nowhere to get to. And you also never know what's going to trigger you as well in a certain moment. There might be, and I always see those as, potentially there's a sign, there's a reason that that person's showing up in your life to help bring that stuff to the
Awareness, yeah.
surface for you to then process, deal, heal, etc. But there's no magical place to get to. It's all a journey, and don't beat yourself up as you're on that process that there's something else for you to go to work on. Because if you're not going to work on something, if you're not growing as a person, you're dying, or you're staying the same. So for me, it's always like, how can I be the best version of myself? How can I take myself to that next level? What's the next step to take? How can I help serve more people? And whatever that looks like,
That's
it is.
incredible. And that's so well said. So well said, of giving yourself forgiveness and allowing yourself to keep going, and ultimately, we get to that place of excitement of like, hey, what else? What else? So what did it look like when you decided, I'm going to help some other people? Like
Mm.
yeah, what'd that look like?
I've always had this sense of there's something more for me. I don't know what that looks like, but there's always something more. And I guess maybe that was also in those really dark moments. One of the things that I have said to myself and still sometimes say to myself is maybe, so I always remember when I was going through as a child terrible things, maybe these things happened to me because I was strong enough to deal with it.
Mm,
Now, was that true? I don't know. Did that help me get through that moment? Absolutely. Is it right now? I don't know. Maybe I'm a pretty strong and resilient person. So there are going to be stories that you tell yourself that can be really empowering or help you cope in that moment. And they can also be of disservice to you. So I grew up as a result of that, as being a really strong and independent woman, which protected me from everyone and everything that I needed it to. Where it didn't protect me over time was when I wanted to be in a relationship and find somebody and get married. Being a strong, independent woman and using that as a tool didn't work for me any longer. So, but for me, even at a young age, I kind of always thought, well, maybe this is happening to me for a reason. Maybe I'm strong enough to be able to do it. Maybe I'm here to learn something, to be able to share that with somebody and help somebody, suicidal or sharing my stories around any of the things, even the miscarriages. I'm a women's circle facilitator as well. And at one point, I thought, am I meant to be holding women's circles for people who are struggling with fertility issues and miscarriages? Is that why I'm going through this, in order to help other women who have been through that? And I don't know the answers to all of that. It may be, and maybe it's not. And that's why I am so grateful for the opportunity today to share my story, because it's so important that we be open and vulnerable and share that, because when you're in those dark moments, you think you're the only person going through that.
Mm,
And so many women, when I shared I had a miscarriage or was going through a miscarriage at the time, so many women said to me too, I've been there.
mm,
And it was heartbreaking in some respects that I was only learning of that after the fact, and that these women had to go through that experience alone. And at the same time, I was like, oh, they get it. But if I hadn't opened up, I would not have known that. And I would have suffered potentially more in silence. I was very grateful that I knew a friend who had had a few herself, and I was able to chat to her, get support, and when I needed it, and guide me along the process. And that's why it's so important that I feel I've always wanted to be sharing and open about my experiences in order to help people. So I guess maybe it's been part of a selfish reason in some respects to help me and my healing journey.
mhm.
And for other people, it can be more traumatizing. So you need to find that balance, because the more times you tell your story, you're reliving it and you're reliving those emotions and those feelings. So that's where your disassociation can sometimes be helpful in those moments where you don't allow yourself to have those full experiences, but you can still help somebody else. So it's about finding what's going to work for you in those moments.
It's
I hope that
powerful.
answered that all in a very long
It did. No, no,
way.
no, no, it did. It did. And I appreciate you being vulnerable on here and sharing everything that you're sharing as boldly as you're sharing it. It it makes me feel good knowing right now the people that are receiving the message that you're sharing. Thank you for being
Thank
vulnerable
you.
and being willing. When you, how did you, what does, what can you share for those listening? What does your business look like? How are you helping women? Is it like, is it a one-to-one? Is it group? Is it in person? Tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah, so currently it's one-to-one. I am developing some group courses at the moment, so that's to come. And I've got a book coming out soon called Thrive: How to 10x Your Health, Wealth, and Happiness. Because everything that I do and that I talk about, as hopefully people would have experienced today, is it's taking that holistic approach. I don't believe you can have true health um, when every other area of your life is not working, and you can't have wealth and all the amazing money in the world if your health and your mind and your happiness is not working for you. So for me, it's always that integrative approach, and that's what I kind of cover in the book, the mind-body connection, and so much more. So yeah, currently it's one-to-one coaching. I'm available for speaking opportunities and all of that as well, and training, and yeah, group courses are
Beautiful.
coming soon, as well as the book.
That's exciting. When do you project in the book to release, or what is it? Do you know yet, or what's that look like?
Yeah, well, it was meant to be this year, but there's been delays with publishing and all of that. So fingers crossed it's still this year, but it could be even early into 2024. So we'll see how the pipeline of their production team goes.
Yeah,
But it's
that's,
available for pre-sale at the moment, and on the link
oh,
that people will get today, they can pre-buy the book. And a bonus for buying the book is they'll get a free course as well, the first steps to thrive. So it's an amazing opportunity. If they want to pre-purchase the book, they'll get a free
yeah.
wellness course worth $297, or they can just buy the course later on.
That's incredible. Oh, that's, I mean, it's very, very kind of you to offer it. And for everyone listening, I mean, I'm sure there's people that have already connected with you that want to buy the book just to hear more about your message and just to support you. Um, Everyone listening, almost lost my train of thought there. Everyone listening to us on the audio right now, you can check us out on YouTube. You can see the video. You can check out Sharron's beautiful face, and if you go on the YouTube, you can also just access that hyperlink right there, so you can press it. If you're watching us on YouTube, by the way, you can download us on your favorite podcast streaming platform, so you can listen to us in the car. So okay, let's get back in. So book is going to be releasing possibly, so fingers crossed this year. Absolute worst case scenario, when the launch, we're in the early side of next year. And then one to one, do you is your one to one service, is that virtual, in person? What does that look like?
Yeah, definitely. So I do my coaching online. I still do some holistic treatments online as well. So I do some of the intuitive coaching, chakra energy balancing. I can do all of that online. And I do raindrop massages still in person. I'm based in Sydney in Australia. So if anyone's traveling in the area or lives locally and they want to come see me, I'm close to the airport so they can get off the plane and get a relaxing massage. And it's actually a really interesting massage because it's not a typical massage.
Can you tell us a little? So I'm not familiar with raindrop massage, right? Is
Yeah,
that okay? Can you tell us a little bit
yeah,
about it, please?
yeah. So we use essential oils through the treatment. If we're doing a traditional raindrop massage, there are particular oils in a particular order that we use for a reason. We can also switch out some of the oils or all of the oils to have an emotional raindrop. So if someone is dealing with a lot of big emotions and they need some more support, we can swap the oils out to focus on that, or even focus on any bodily support that they might need. So
Hmm.
maybe they've got some gut things going on that they need a little bit of love and attention. We can swap those out. So it starts on the feet, and it starts with the Vala balance that I mentioned earlier. So I'm grounding and relaxing the person into the session, but I'm also connecting my energy with their energy as well. So there's a bit of energy work. There's a bit of kind of what we would call reflexology here in modern world. And then there's different massage techniques. So I'm using reflexology on the feet for points that correspond to the spine. So again, in Chinese medicine and acupuncture and things like that, there's always points on the body that will connect to another point on the body. So again, we're talking about the mind-body connection, but the body within itself has meridians and other points that you can work on one part of the body and it will still connect to somewhere else.
Mm.
So I work on the feet, and then the person will turn onto their stomach, and we work on the back. And I'm using different massage techniques. There's a bit of energy movement as well, and the oils being applied to the body through that as well. So the best way that I describe it is it's really relaxing. People can feel really drained and fatigued after it, depending upon what's going on for them. Or they could feel really relaxed and they could feel so energized at the same time. It can be a weird sensation that people can't get their head around.
Mhm.
So I had a client the other week who has lots of medical issues, and I couldn't even, and this might blow people's minds a little bit depending upon where they're at in their journey. So I couldn't physically work on their body based on the technique that I do. I wasn't allowed to work on their body directly in certain parts of the treatment. So I had to work in their aura. And this is the power of the mind and the intention. So I still did the same moves just above their body. I still did it with the intention that it was doing what it needed to do to support the person. This person has back nerve pain issues and mobility issues. And they said, I don't feel any pain when I normally feel pain. And they could, arch their back backwards when they normally couldn't. So my mind was blown that I could help that person to have that result when normally they don't feel like that always day to day. So it's just about knowing if I can help someone achieve that with the power of my mind and the technique and moving the energy. What could you do for yourself with the power of your mind and the intention that you generate for what you want to create?
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. I appreciate it, Sharon. Sharon, everything you're sharing is just, I love it. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all of this.
You're
Um,
welcome.
I'm still a little bit curious, like energy work, like dealing in people aura. Like, where did, like, did you do, I'm curious, where do you got into that realm of things? Like, where did you
Mm.
learn, yeah, where did you learn that realm?
Yeah. So as I was saying to you before with my path, I never intended coming from corporate and being at the top of my career. I never envisioned doing treatments for people and putting my hands on other people's bodies. It was never part of the plan.
Right.
And a friend who had done the program before, who lived in another state to me, said, Sharron, even if you don't do this as a practitioner for other people, having this skill, being able to do this for your friends and family is powerful. I learned this in 2020 when we were in lockdowns. We were coming out of the lockdown, but here in Australia, we went back into lockdown multiple times after that. And I thought, wow, having that as a resource to be able to help people, if I can't leave the house and get to my own practitioner, if I could teach my husband how to do it for me, etc., that's pretty cool. I mean, I can teach people how to do it from only for them to do it with friends and family. So again, if that's something that any of the listeners here today want to learn
Yeah.
how they can do it for their partners and their loved ones, I can definitely do that remotely and teach them how to do that. But yeah, it was never part of my plan to become a practitioner. I actually just really loved it. And the
That's
more that I
awesome.
do that, the more treatments that I do, strangely, I become more connected to myself.
Yeah.
My intuition has become so much heightened. When I go through periods where I don't see clients, I am not as connected and not as intuitive as I normally am. So it's a weird thing. And also, when you're giving and you're serving to somebody else, you're receiving so many benefits in exchange. Like, when I've helped someone to feel that relaxed or that amazing, or to be able to bend their back backwards when they normally can't, being a part of that is so special. No one can take that away. And I know it's not all me doing that, it's the process and everything else, but I, in that moment, have held space for that person to
Yes.
allow them to achieve that. So yeah, it was never part of the process. But once I learned that, they were also offering chakra energy balancing. And I was like, wow, I want to learn that too. And, you just start learning one thing
Awesome.
after the other and you can't stop. But where I, again, bridging that gap, when people talk about chakras and, oh, it's all these points and this is the point, how I love to make it make sense for me in the logical part of my brain, I talk about energy systems and how can I balance the energy systems and how can I know, okay, I had to reschedule this podcast interview with you because I had a sore throat. I was coughing a lot and I was like, Greg, I can't do this because I can't speak and I want to be able to give the best on the day. So I had to internally go, okay, throat, that I've got some physical issues going on in my throat area. I'm coughing. What am I not communicating? What am I not speaking? What do I need to say? How can I speak my truth more? Where am I not speaking my truth? So I use these tools and these techniques to guide me from the spiritual, the physical and the spiritual together to get the answers that I need, and then take the actions that I need to take. So that's kind of how I bring the two worlds together to make sense.
Yeah, it's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, and then the weight and the um definitely helps out.
Yeah,
Um,
you're welcome.
what? So I appreciate everything that you've shared today, and I gotta ask you. So for the women, that the link that you have shared with us, that we're gonna have for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
again, if you guys listen and hop over to YouTube, you can grab that link. Is there Is there an ability for people to if people want to connect with you? Is that
Mm-hmm.
option in that link as well?
Yeah, definitely. You can connect with me. You can book a free 20-minute strategy call with me. We can get online and have a chat, talk about where you're at, what you want to achieve, and whether you feel I'm a match to work together. Um,
Beautiful.
I'm gonna need some water now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna take your lead.
Yes. Um, and then there's links to my socials as well. So you can find me on the Instagram,
Beautiful.
LinkedIn, Facebook. The Sharron Keogh generally works for all of those platforms apart from LinkedIn. It's just Sharron Keogh. So yeah, find me online. I love making new connections, and yeah, I would love to hear about your journey and how they're going, and yeah, what's
That
worked
is
for
so
them,
awesome.
because I can learn as much from them as they can learn
Yeah,
from me.
yeah, for sure. Would you share a message? I'll ask my guests to share a message, just whatever you're called or channel to share
Mm.
with. And what I'll do is I'll kind of create an avatar of who you're speaking to, and just it's whatever I'm called to kind of share with you.
Mm.
Would you share with the um, would you share with a message to women um, that feel lost, that have been through struggles in life, um, and they somewhere, whether they've communicated this out loud or not, they have a desire and they know like that the flame is inside. They know there's more. Could you
Yeah.
share? Would you share with them a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can totally relate to that woman because I was that woman. And, still sometimes might be at times. So, um, for me, I think when you're a high achieving woman or a man, um, you're constantly striving to be best, be better, do better. Um, so, what I want to say is you're perfect exactly the way that you are, and know that you are enough. And if you still have a desire to be the best version of yourself, start by working on you,
Mm,
and know that whatever may have happened up until this point, no matter how traumatic that it may have been, unfortunately or fortunately, it's the way that it was meant to be. And what can you take out of that? What can you learn from that experience? How can that inform you to be the best version of yourself? And how can you use that and turn it around to being your superpower? Because I know that if you've been through something and you're still here today to share your message, that you are strong and you are a powerful individual and you have way more to give to the world. So,
it's very
yeah.
powerful. Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you for being on, and thank you for the work that you have done. I can't know your journey, but I know that it is work. Thank you for the work that you
Mm.
have done to be stabilized and comfortable and confident and enough in who you are to be vulnerable today and share the things that you've shared. I appreciate having you on.
Oh, thank you. That's such a beautiful, beautiful message. And I receive that fully. Thank you.
Awesome. And for everyone listening in, until next week, be great. It's already in you.